Have you ever felt that silence acts as a shield, protecting you from conflict, judgmental stares, or endless disagreements? But pause for a moment and ask yourself, does that silence truly protect you, or is it silently stealing your inner strength? In life, we often remain silent not because we have nothing to say, but because of fear. Fear of misunderstanding, fear of causing trouble, fear of losing our peace. But is that fear worth sacrificing your conscience, your values, and your authentic voice? Stoicism, one of humanity's most powerful schools of thought, teaches us that silence isn't always a virtue. Sometimes, remaining silent means not only missing an opportunity for change, but also betraying ourselves. Today we'll explore moments where silence is no longer an option. These are moments demanding you confront your fears, transcend passivity, and use your voice as a tool to defend truth, justice, and your very self. Be prepared, because this video isn't just advice. It's a call to awaken, to act, and to rediscover your inner strength. This isn't just about Stoicism. It's about you, your life, and how you choose to live through challenging moments. Scenario 1. When injustice occurs. Injustice isn't just an abstract concept. It's a slow poison, corroding the foundation of communities and relationships, destroying trust, dignity, and fairness. Silence in the face of injustice isn't neutrality. It's an active choice to allow that poison to spread unchecked. Stoicism emphasizes justice not just as a virtue but as a responsibility. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What is not good for the beehive is not good for the bee." This encapsulates the truth that allowing evil to exist anywhere within a community ultimately harms everyone, including those who choose silence. So why do we choose silence? Often it's fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of retribution, fear of standing alone. These fears, while very human, can paralyze us and make us complicit in the very harm we hope to avoid. The irony is that silence, while feeling like a way to preserve peace or avoid conflict, most often creates deeper turmoil. Silence is fertile ground for injustice, and injustice, like a festering wound, only gets worse when ignored. I learned this the hard way early in my career. A colleague was wrongly blamed for a mistake they didn't make. I knew the truth and had the opportunity to speak up, but I hesitated, convincing myself it wasn't my business and intervention could jeopardize my position. Fear of repercussions silenced me. Witnessing my colleague endure undeserved criticism felt like witnessing a slow betrayal, not only of them but also of my own values. The guilt of my inaction clung to me, and I realized that by prioritizing my comfort, I had failed them and failed myself. Over time, I learned that silence in the face of injustice is a betrayal, not only of the victim, but also of the integrity we claim to uphold. Opposing injustice doesn't necessarily require dramatic or heroic actions. Sometimes it's the small but courageous moments. Speaking truth in a meeting, standing up for someone unjustly attacked, or simply refusing to be a bystander. These seemingly small acts ripple outwards, fostering trust and empowering others to do the same. Stoicism teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Injustice thrives when good people say nothing. Choosing silence may feel safe in the moment, but it weakens our character and allows harm to continue. The next time you witness injustice, ask yourself, is my comfort more important than another's dignity? Is my fear of conflict worth the price of letting harm go unchallenged? We all have a responsibility, not just to protect ourselves, but to protect the conscience and justice for all. Scenario 2. When your boundaries are crossed. Boundaries aren't just invisible lines in life. They are the limits that protect respect, trust, and integrity in any relationship. When someone crosses these boundaries, our silence isn't just acquiescence. It's a signal that we can be exploited, that our comfort and dignity are negotiable. Stoicism teaches us that protecting ourselves and our values isn't selfish or hostile, but a manifestation of self-respect and a way to assert personal worth. Epictetus said, No one is free who is not master of himself. Protecting your boundaries isn't just a right, it's a duty to yourself. I remember a time when a relative repeatedly borrowed money without repaying, each time accompanied by sincere promises to do so. Initially, I convinced myself that helping family was the right thing to do. However, as time went on, their requests became more frequent and the amounts larger. I started feeling uncomfortable, not just because of the financial burden, but because I realized they were taking advantage of my kindness. I felt I had become a tool to fulfill their needs without being respected. Finally, after another request for money, I decided to address the situation. I made it clear that while I cared deeply for them, I couldn't continue lending money without accountability. I set a clear boundary. I was willing to support them in other ways, but not financially. Initially, they felt hurt and defensive, but ultimately they understood my perspective. It was a difficult conversation, but it allowed me to protect my financial stability and maintain the relationship on a foundation of mutual respect. This situation illustrates a profound truth. Without setting boundaries, we not only allow ourselves to be exploited, but we also weaken our relationships. When we don't require others to respect our limits, we are harming our own principles and dignity. Stoicism reminds us that we are responsible for how others treat us, and setting boundaries is a way to protect our self-respect and maintain respect within any relationship. Stoicism doesn't just teach us that protecting boundaries is necessary, it advises us to do so firmly and clearly. Communicating these boundaries should be done assertively, yet compassionately. You don't need to be confrontational or rigid. Instead, explain how their behavior affects you and state clearly the changes you need for the relationship to continue respectfully. This approach not only helps maintain harmony, but also fosters deeper understanding between parties, allowing us to continue the relationship in respect and equality. Scenario 3. When truth is necessary to uphold integrity. Truth isn't merely a moral value, it's the backbone of integrity, the thing that maintains the purity of the soul and mutual respect in all relationships. Yet, in difficult situations, it's often the first thing we sacrifice. Remaining silent when truth needs to be spoken isn't just conflict avoidance. It's an active act of harming the principles we've built our lives upon. Stoicism views truthful living as a fundamental virtue, the strong foundation of all righteous action. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But sometimes silence isn't just inaction, it can become a lie, a cover-up for wrongdoing. Then, silence becomes a betrayal, not only of others, but also of ourselves. I once faced a difficult situation in my career where my commitment to honesty was tested. In a team meeting, my superior presented a report with clear inaccuracies. These weren't intentional, but they painted a misleading picture that could lead to serious consequences for the entire project. Everyone in the room noticed, but no one spoke up. Some may even have felt that speaking up would create unnecessary tension. The silent atmosphere in the room made it even harder for me to decide to act. My instinct was to remain silent, hoping someone else would correct it or at least overlook the issue. But I knew that if I didn't speak up, the inaccuracy would persist, and I would become part of the problem. Ultimately, I decided to speak up. I pointed out the inaccuracies gently but firmly, and although the immediate reaction was tense, the team corrected the errors, and the project continued with its integrity preserved. That experience taught me not only the importance of honesty, but also that, however difficult, truth always upholds integrity and trust among those around you. Stoicism reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite that fear. Honesty when things are easy is not a challenge. Honesty in the face of uncomfortable truths is the true measure of character. Those who are able to stand firm in the light of truth, even when it causes discomfort, are the most respected. Silence when truth needs to be spoken isn't just an omission, it's a choice that will damage trust and respect. To maintain lasting relationships, we must embrace difficult truths and stand up to defend them. Silence may bring a feeling of safety in the moment, but it only perpetuates falsehoods and causes us to lose our true value. Scenario 4. When a mistake needs correcting. Mistakes are an unavoidable part of life, but mistakes left unacknowledged and uncorrected tend to grow into larger problems, like small cracks in a dam. They may seem insignificant at first, but if not addressed promptly, they can cause catastrophic failure. Stoicism emphasizes that correcting a mistake isn't about blame or criticism, but about preserving the integrity of the system, community, or relationship. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." When facing a mistake, this means that directly addressing the error is not an obstacle, but the path to progress and growth. I remember a situation early in my career. In an important meeting, a serious error was overlooked in a team presentation. It was just a small detail, a miscalculation in a report that seemingly no one would notice. However, I realized that if left uncorrected, it would lead to a series of wrong decisions in the future, potentially causing serious consequences. I hesitated for a long time. The mistake wasn't mine, and pointing it out might embarrass the person responsible. Inside, I felt a sense of awkwardness and fear of conflict. But I also knew that if we left that error to persist, we would pay a heavy price later. So I decided to face the truth and speak up. I interrupted the discussion and pointed out the inaccuracy gently but clearly. The room fell silent. You could cut the tension with a knife. I could feel the stress in the room, but instead of creating conflict, addressing the issue led to a productive discussion. In the end, we corrected the error and avoided a costly decision later. This experience taught me that correcting mistakes isn't about personal criticism, but about taking responsibility. Stoicism teaches us that courage isn't just physical bravery, but the willingness to act morally, ethically, and to face the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. When you correct a mistake, you not only protect the immediate outcome, but you also set a precedent for honesty and prudence in your community. The firmness in correcting errors strengthens not only the system, but helps us build a culture that respects truth, accountability, and continuous improvement. The question we need to ask ourselves is, am I willing to confront the mistake and correct it, even if it might be difficult for me? Remaining silent and ignoring mistakes may be easier, but it only leads to greater losses in the future. In fact, the courage to correct mistakes will help us mature, not only personally but also in our relationships with others. Scenario 5. When your expertise can help others. Knowledge isn't just a personal asset, it's a responsibility. When you possess expertise or experience that can alleviate someone's burden, solve a problem, or provide clarity in a difficult situation, remaining silent is not only a disservice to them, but also a neglect of your own responsibility. Stoics always emphasize the concept of shared humanity, where we live not only for ourselves but for the community. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What is not good for the beehive is not good for the bee." Your knowledge and experience are tools to serve the common good, not trophies to keep to yourself. I remember a time when a close friend was struggling with profound grief after losing a loved one. Having experienced similar periods myself, I could recognize the emotional isolation and despair in their behavior. I understood that pain, yet I hesitated to share my experience. I worried that I might say the wrong thing or that my words would be misinterpreted. However, I realized that my silence wasn't protection. It was abandoning them in their pain. When the silence became unbearable, I decided to reach out. I simply said, "I know this pain is hard to bear alone. I've been through it. If you want, I'm happy to share what helped me get through it." That simple statement opened a much-needed conversation for them, and gradually, the insights from my experience became a source of comfort and guidance. Through that openness, they began to feel relief and hope in a period where they felt lost. This experience reminded me that our knowledge and experiences, especially painful ones, can become a light for others during difficult times. Whether it's sharing financial advice, coping with loss, or life lessons learned, your expertise can be a true lifeline. However, it's important to approach with humility and sensitivity. None of us have the answers to all problems, and sometimes sharing isn't about instructing, but empathizing and encouraging others to find their own path. Stoicism reminds us that each individual has a responsibility towards those around them. Silence in this case isn't just about not speaking. It's a failure to connect and help others overcome challenges. Sharing knowledge doesn't mean boasting or believing you're right, but using the power of insight and experience to support the community and make the lives of those around you better. So the next time you see someone struggling, ask yourself, can my knowledge or experience help them? What can I do to share what I know without making them feel judged or pressured? That is the responsibility of each of us, not just to live for ourselves, but to contribute to building a strong community where everyone can move forward and overcome challenges. Finally, let's summarize. Silence can be golden, but in the wrong moments, it can be the most dangerous weapon you wield. The scenarios we've analyzed are just a small part of everyday life. However, we can draw an important lesson. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Honesty, respecting boundaries, correcting mistakes, and sharing expertise are necessary virtues for living a full and meaningful life. Remember that your voice has immense power. Don't let silence obscure the light of conscience, justice, and kindness. Speak up, act, and make the world a better place each day, using the values and expertise you possess. Silence is not a solution to every problem. On the contrary, it can be the source of many other problems. Remember the teachings of the Stoics. Live fully with virtue, reason, and responsibility, and you will find true peace and happiness. Before we end, I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think about these situations? Have you ever encountered similar situations in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you so much for spending time watching this video. Continue on your journey of meaningful living, full of courage and virtue. See you in the next video.